Code for America is a nonprofit organization that's based in San Francisco. And the mission of Code for America is to improve city government so that it works better for everyone. And at the heart of this is a fellowship program. The way Code for America works is through this year-long fellowship program, during which developers, designers, urban technologists, other techie folks like myself, we partner with different city governments throughout the United States, city governments that have applied and are part of the program for the year. And then we stay in the cities, we try to, together in partnership with the city, understand what the sore points are for the community. And then we help to try to tackle them together as partners with the city and the community so that city government can be more efficient, it can run a little bit more like a startup, and we can create software applications that are actually of use to the communities.
Let me just, ask you, people have different perceptions of government these days, It used to be that you found that the level of effectiveness of a government was inversely proportionate to how far it was from the local people, from the electorate. So that a local government was clearly inefficient. A state government was somewhat inefficient.
Inversely proportional.
Inversely, local government
I see.
is
Interesting. Okay.
Some people say, and then people thought, and up till fairly recently, that federal government, that was the supreme. Those guys knew what they were doing. They had the talent in the federal government. That may not be the case in terms of public perception, especially after this thing with the debt ceiling, last year and this year and so forth. But, it's government, and you're describing a model where you have to engage with government. And sometimes government, collectively, by design or otherwise, has no real intention to fix anything. So how do you cope with that?
It's a great question. And I think actually that the model is the opposite of the one you described. It seems, at least our belief at Code for America is that local government is about as human as you can get, because city governments are actually working with providing services for real people. We talk about the gutturals of cities, of humanity. You have to clean the wastewater. You have to make sure that traffic is running. You have to sweep the streets. We're talking about literally things that affect human beings on a daily basis. The electricity, all of this is done by city government.
I can see that.
And the higher you go, you get to the federal level, it seems like there's so much bureaucracy, and it's so distant from your day-to-day existence, from the people. Yeah. Which is why Code for America is focusing on the local government level and the city government, because that's where you have real people.
You want gratification, don't you? I know. You want to come into a community, you want to talk to the people, you want to find out exactly what's on their minds, and you want to respond to them, and you want them to say, Sheba, that was great, thank you.
Yeah, basically, yes. We actually, we were here for 5 weeks in February. We stayed here, met with a ton of people from the community, citizens, residents, to try to understand where the sore points were. And of course, in today's day and age, city government budgets have completely been slashed. They're really, really tiny. And you cannot expect city government to give you a tremendous level of service for everything. I'll give you a story, a little anecdote. So last year was the first year of Code for America's fellowship. And in Boston, there was an application called Citizens Connect. Not done by Code for America, but it was an application that was out there. And what it was, it allowed people to report problems. For example, there's a pothole that's open, or there's a broken street light, things like that. The municipality could see it and respond to it, but it was open, so other people could also see it, and they could say, they could respond to it or what have you. So there's, at 2 a.m. one night, there was a post from a lady, very panicky post saying, possum in trash can, needs city service help ASAP. Don't know if it's dead or alive. And So just think about this. At 2 a.m., somebody's, asking the city for help. And it's sort of ludicrous, I think, to expect that the city will be able to get to it in any kind of timely fashion, or that it's a good use of city resources even to go around, and try to help you with a possum in your trash can, just given how limited budgets are. But here's where the magic happens. So the next post on this, the next comment on this post was at maybe 3:30 in the morning. A neighbor who saw this and took a picture of the trash can and said, walked over, tipped over trash can on his side, possum check, alive check. Possum walked out. Good night, sweet possum. Everything's fixed. So, I mean, that's the thing. We no longer have this notion of citizenship that that I'm told, maybe you remember, Jay, that we used to
Way
a few
back,
decades ago. I'm just teasing you. But the notion of this advanced citizenship, or what we're calling citizenship 2.0, which is, where you join hands. There's so many things you can do a lot more effectively than relying on city services for, just by being a good neighbor, by using your hands rather than just your voice to complain. I attended a neighborhood board meeting when we were here in February, and I
want your
say,
impressions on that.
it was on Valentine's Day, so I spent my Valentine's Day attending a neighborhood
Sorry.
board meeting, and it was a lot of complaints. What I saw, what I observed was a lot of complaints, series of complaints, but no real raising of hands to say, okay, I can do this. And so the city representatives who were there were dutifully taking notes on everything, but just listening to a barrage of complaints. And so somebody said, there was something funny I witnessed where one resident said, there's a broken, or there's a traffic light that's gone awry on this street intersection. I want to know, has anyone reported it? Why hasn't anyone reported it? And I'm thinking, well, why haven't you reported it, right? I mean, it's so much easier to use our voices to complain, but that's not going to get us very far. We really have to actually see where we can be. We can partner in government. See, government is what we do together in partnership. Government is not something that is handed down to us, or government is not something, we have this saying at Code for America, government is not like a vending machine that you put your money into and get services out. Government is what citizens and city have to do together in partnership.
Are you contending that we're coming back to this? I mean, I know exactly what you mean, and I ascribe to the point. But are you contending that we're coming back to it? Are people at the neighborhood board and otherwise, are they becoming conscious of this again somehow?
Well, that's certainly what we're trying at Code for America. We're trying to bring community and city employees closer together, and we did this at the event that I was here for, and I'll tell you about that later. But our hope is to make that notion clearer. There's a book that was recently published called Gardens of Democracy, and it talks about this beautifully. It's a short, easy read. But our hope is that
Gardens of Democracy. Gardens
yes.
Okay.
But the hope is that that citizenship, that we can get the word out, that more people become aware of this notion of citizenship. And the thing is, there is no way. If we don't, we're in deep trouble. If we don't,
Some people think we are in deep trouble.
Yeah,
we
sure.
don't.
That's absolutely right, and we'll continue to be. But I think that it's time that we all kind of partner it in government and be be willing to engage with government.
Yeah, but government is community, though, and
Absolutely.
it goes down to the question of whether the individual citizen takes responsibility for the common good instead of only self-interest. And I think it's not only the U.S., but in our world, it is the U.S., and I think people are largely into self-interest, and they've forgotten how to work for the common good a long time ago. And what you're talking about at the neighborhood board is perfect. It must be somebody else's responsibility. It can't be my responsibility. I just do the vending machine. So what you're doing is really more important than just coding.
Oh, yeah,
This is
yeah.
a study in democracy.
Actually, that's absolutely right. Code for America, even though the name says Code for America, the software applications we develop is actually probably a very small part of what we're trying to do. It's not about the applications. The applications are definitely there to increase sort of civic engagement, but what we're trying to do is to instantiate a culture shift inside city government to help city government run more like a lean startup, to help city government engage with citizens, be more open, be more transparent, to open up their data, the public data that they have, to make it available so that people from the community, developers, can actually do useful things with the data.
Well, that's inspired. That's really a tremendous program. I mean, it really hits at the root of our society, you know? I'm so glad. When we talked about this earlier, I didn't get that. Now I got it. Thank you.
Sure. No, yeah. I'm glad I was, yeah.
So I mean, here you come in and you offer this. You say, look, if you tell me your problems, we can work this out. If you tell me your problems, we can collaborate in finding a solution, a real solution. But at the same time, we can collaborate in the process. And when you see and touch and feel the process, all of our lives and our society will be better. It's remarkable. And I'm driven to respond to say, well, it's not so much who wins or loses, but how you play the game. It's almost to say that, well, if the application works really well or doesn't work exactly so well, the point is we did it together.
Absolutely, it's not about the application. And most of the time, you'll notice that our applications, we launch them very quickly. It's just to get something out. It's mostly to show an example of what's possible. It's not so much about the application itself. It's to show that both city government and communities that, look, in 2 months, you can create an open source application. Open source meaning that the code is all freely available to anybody else who wants to improve it.
It's always open source.
It's always open source.
So you encourage people to come in. And I mean, my knowledge is a little spotty, but who ultimately comes in, looks at that open source and takes it to the next level? What kind of people? Could it be anybody or just certain people?
Absolutely. It could be anyone. That's the beauty of open source. It's that it's up there on GitHub, github.com, which is, free and open. Anybody can go and say, this looks like a great application. I want to see if I can make it better. And then others can go in and improve it. And that's the thing. The application is never final. It's not like I'm launching a finished product. I'm launching something that's showing the capabilities of what, of like some ideas that we garnered from the community and from City Hall. And let's all get together and keep improving it.
Okay, now help me with this.
Yes.
So you come to me and you say, what can we code for you, Jay? What can we start you off on? And I say, King Street needs timed lights. I want you to put a wireless timed lights program all up and down King Street. And you do that, and you make it open source code. And gee, that's pretty good. And then I drive down King Street and I say, I could do this a little better. I got some ideas here. So I call you, I say, Sheba, I got an idea, for a little more logic that would go in the system to time the lights. Now, is my idea going to get on that system? Or is the city going to say, who are you? Why would you tamper with our code,
Here's the thing. You don't even need to come to me and say that you have an idea. You take the code that's on there, you create a clone of the code. So you're not touching the code you're not ruining, you're not introducing some broken code or, even if you're just learning how to program or hacking it, right? You make a copy of that code and it's now your own clone. And you can do whatever the hell you want with it. You can, add crazy bells and whistles to your traffic lights. And then once you've got it working and a really great way, you can say, hey, look, I've got this thing that's working that's really great. And other people will start using it. But I mean, and at that point, other people might say, oh, I've got another interesting idea. And then they'll clone yours. And then they'll add some more things to it. Let me give you an example of an application that was done last year. Very simple. I mean, this is what I mean by showing what's possible. It's not rocket science, but it's just these simple things that you don't think about, and suddenly when somebody does it, you realize, oh my God, look at the realm of what's possible. So last year was the first year of the fellowship, as I said. There was a fellow who was assigned to the city of Boston, and they were there in February. And in February, you might imagine, I was here in February. It was great. But they were.
Well, I met you. I met you in February or
That's
March
right.
or like
in
that.
February, we were here for 5 weeks.
Yeah.
And so when they were there in February for 5 weeks, it was the worst snowstorm of 2011. And they noticed that all the fire hydrants were covered in snow, such that, the firemen, if there was ever a fire, the firemen needed to spend 15 minutes digging out the fire hydrants so that they could then connect them and go try to save somebody's life. So what somebody came up with a super simple idea, but nobody thinks of it, right? Was this application called Adopt a Hydrant.
That's really funny.
What it is again, citizens
What a great idea.
engaging the community.
Sure.
So a citizen can say, okay, I walk this route every day to work. I'm just going to make sure that whenever I see that this particular hydrant, and you can name your hydrant Bob or whatever you want, that if Bob is ever covered in snow, I'm just going to scrape it out of snow. And I take charge of Bob, and I say that it's always going to be uncovered. It's a simple idea, but this is how you crowdsource, or you get the community involved, because the city does not have the budget or time to be able to, clear out all the fire hydrants constantly. So just by doing this little action, I mean, it's great. So this is a super simple application that was made. Here's what happened. It triggered off.
I'm laughing because I love it so much.
It triggered off. So you show what's possible, right? It triggered off all of these light bulbs in all these other cities. So Chicago did Adopt a Sidewalk. They took that code and changed it so that you use it for sidewalks. Seattle used it for Adopt a Storm Drains. There's storm drains, it's so windy, they're always getting clogged with leaves. And Honolulu, we launched Adopt a Siren. So tsunami sirens.
Siren, okay.
So, yeah, we just launched it with Code for America. So we took the code and we said that here you have tsunami sirens. Once a month, there's that tsunami siren warning test. And oftentimes, the sirens may not function because somebody stole the batteries or a gecko got into them, or who knows, they're malfunctioning. Well, it's not possible for the city to know and monitor all the time every siren on the island. But what it's really easy for people to do is to say, okay, I sign up for responsibility for my siren, Charles, and I'm going to say, we send you a reminder text message, and person can say, I'll just tell you if I don't hear it, or if I hear it, I'll just report back. You don't have to do anything except respond to a text message and say, yes, heard it, or no, didn't hear it.
Yeah.
And so, we just, last year's fellows just showed Adopt a Hydrant, just did one application as a possibility, and then that's all they had to do. Other people took that on and started using it for Adopt a Siren, Adopt a Storm Drain, Adopt whatnot. And now there's tons of instances of Adopta all over the country.
It's public service.
Yeah.
It's connection. It's engagement, just as you said. So, but tell me though. I mean, we have complacency. We have laziness. We have people who forget about this. They get all excited. Hawaii is the land of early adopters. Give them something thrilling and new. Oh, they'll be on it. But what about 6 months? Mm-hmm. How do you perpetuate the interest, the engagement, so that it's just as exciting 6 months later as it was at the outset? Tell me.
I mean, that's a really, really good point, because our fellowship, alas, all good things must come to an end. Our fellowship, too, ends sort of mid-November of this year. So,
that's your connection with Hawaii, your connection with Honolulu. What is the fellowship? Your personal fellowship?
Yes, I'm a fellow at Code. My heart is also crying, or tears of blood right now. But it's true. It's actually been an absolutely wonderful, very, very special year. I've never worked at any place like Code for America. Very unique. Lots of like-missioned people who all want, none of whom is doing it for the money or glory or anything. But all doing it because we want to make things better.
But
it's
carry
great.
it forward,
So, but Code for America has thought about it too, which is, I mentioned that at the heart of Code for America is the fellowship program. It's got a couple of other programs too. One is the Brigade, the Code for America Brigade. And what that is people from the community in any city, citizens can sign up as volunteers to be part of the Code for America Brigade. And they are the sort of the civic arm of Code for America. And the brigade folks are people who are very passionate. They don't have to know how to code. A lot of them do, but a lot of them are just sort of passionate about making things better for everyone, for government, for citizens. And so in Honolulu, we just launched the Honolulu Brigade while I was here just now, like a couple of weeks ago. We've got two brigade co-captains, Bert Lum and Arthur Grau.
Oh, I know Bert. Yeah.
You know Bert? Yeah. I think everybody knows Bert. And so they are the captains of Honolulu Brigade, and we've got maybe about 8 people now signed up on brigade, for brigade just in the last 2 weeks. So, and then anybody can go sign up at brigade.codeforamerica.org.
Brigade.codeforamerica.org.
Yeah, and it's literally, it just asks for your email address and your name, and you're signed up. And so so we have brigades in cities all over the country, and the brigade is what we're looking to keep sort of the engagement and the excitement going.
So there's a mechanism in place
Yes.
to do what I was concerned about.
Exactly.
Right. God, this is exciting, I tell you. You say to yourself, these are basic civic truths. They are dealing with the American community and interesting people, exciting people, just what we need really in a time of complacency, of people who lose touch with the community, and it's so easy to lose touch, and technology makes us lose touch.
Absolutely.
And we have to find where to bring the technology back and engage people again. This is, I remember, shifting a little bit, if
Yes,
you don't mind,
of
just free
course.
association. This happened in our radio show too. When Barack Obama was first elected, I saw an article in the paper that talked about his affinity with pure democracy in the purest sense possible. It was where everybody in the country voted on everything. By using the computer. It's so easy. It's, again, not rocket science.
Yeah.
You wake up in the morning and there's some questions. You answer the questions, and that runs the government. Now, this is probably not workable, but it is a statement of the future, don't you think?
Absolutely. In fact, people should be able to do it via SMS, because everybody might not have access to computers, but a lot more people have access to at least text messaging.
Yeah. So this participatory thing, right now you're working at I don't want to say the beginning of it, but at least the early part of it anyway. And it will probably flower into something much more than that, where people are able to express political opinions, maybe vote on issues, and not necessarily candidates, but issues beyond candidates. What shall we put in another chill water system? Yes or no? It's going to cost this much. Here's the pros. Here's the cons. Vote. Why not? Why don't we do that? We can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a website called Votizen, which is a startup based in, I believe, in California. I could be wrong about that. But that's the thing. They're trying to get people, encouraging people to vote and to get citizens engaged with voting. I mean, it's really important to exercise your right to democracy.
Now, here's the other side of the coin. I know we're far off the track. We'll come back. The other side of the coin is that we live in a time with these super PACs. We live in a time when money buys votes, and people, are sort of accept whatever the television tells them, and that's how they make their minds up. And if you deal with the population in general, you may get an imperfect result. And so it's really a question of shaping this so that people are properly informed and they use their best brain cells to make these choices. I mean, you have to trust them. We all have to trust everyone else to make the right choices. And so this is another part, I think, of what you're doing, is that ultimately it's a two-way street.
Right. And you mentioned making money. So, I mentioned that Code for America has a couple of programs, the fellowship program being the center of it. Then there's the brigade I mentioned. And the third program it has is the accelerator. which is a civic accelerator. So the idea is that, there's a tremendous market in the civic startup space. So I don't know, several billion. What is it? It's 170 billion, something like this.
What's the civic startup space?
So basically, you can have a startup, you can make money, you can create a business that enhances civic engagement, that you provide services. Right now, city governments are partnered with vendors that charge a buttload of money for providing, for creating, say, a software application for them, right? These giant Oracle type companies. But a little startup, a small business, can provide the same service a lot faster, often a lot cheaper, and a lot better.
Sure, and you can scale them up to millions if you need to.
Absolutely, and you don't have to go through this whole sort of rigmarole of procurement, and which is actually sort of very time consuming. So I'll give you an example of a sort of a civic startup. It's called C-Click Fix. And
C-Tick Fix.
C-Click Fix.
Okay. Oh, okay.
C-Click.
Three steps. Okay.
Exactly. You see a problem, such as a broken streetlight or a pothole. Click on your computer or your phone to report it, and then you can track as it gets fixed.
Or it doesn't.
You can see the status at any time. So you can see if it's been reported by somebody else in the community.
Yeah.
You can see who's working on it.
Yeah.
If it's been assigned to anyone, what the status is.
Yeah.
And that way you're informed. You don't need to keep reporting the same pothole over and over. You can see if somebody else in the community has reported it.
Yeah.
And C-Click Fix is a startup that is a for-profit startup. It's not a not-for-profit.
How does it get, what's the model?
I think they charge some commission, or actually the city, I think, partners with them and pays them a certain amount of money.
But it's almost against
it's
the
a
city's
vendor.
interest, because, yes, the city would like to know what's broken, okay? That does their work for them.
Mm-hmm.
But then the downline, the follow-up part is a little dangerous for the city, because if they don't fix it, they're going to be criticized, and this site will make it, a public fact. So it's a great incentive for them to fix it.
Right. No, so that's true. It's an incentive. And cities are trying to do the right thing,
Is
believe it or
Hawaii
not.
into Honolulu into that?
Honolulu is doing Honolulu 311, which is very much the same idea. It was done by a company called City Sourced. It's a mobile application, and I think it was launched in February, from what I understand. You can take a picture of a problem and just report it, and it comes to the city. Yeah, exactly. So same idea, a different vendor. These sorts of applications, are there. There's another one called Measured Voice, which is something that allows a city, it's specifically for governments. They've created, so for governments, another thing that's important is to communicate back to citizens, right? And for city governments, that often does not happen because there's so much on their plate. The last thing they have time for is to keep responding to citizen requests, right? But that's the problem. There's a big disconnect between what citizens think you're doing and what you're actually doing. So if you didn't fix that pothole I reported, as a citizen, I'm going to think, and I don't hear anything about the status, I'm going to think, okay, well, I reported that 40 days ago and nobody's worked on it. What is the city doing? Does the city do anything? But if I could check the status that you have been going and fixing all the potholes on Ewa Beach, and I see that, in that neighborhood, they actually fixed 500 potholes last week. Just they haven't gotten to mine yet.
Then I feel a lot better.
I'm like, okay, they're doing stuff, right?
Yeah.
They just haven't gotten to mine yet.
So it's really transparency.
So, exactly, it's transparency.
So what it strikes me, and I really like your feedback on this. This kind of system needs a fair witness. What I mean is, if you just put it into the hands of government, political forces play, because the city is going to be a little concerned that they'll be criticized if they don't fix the potholes at Ewa Beach, okay? So it needs somebody like you. I don't want to make you change your mind about ending the program, ending your participation, but I mean, I'd like to make you feel guilty.
It's going to be very hard to convince me that Code for America is not the best thing I could do with my life right now. So.
But somebody has to come from far away. Somebody has to come from Programmingville, Codeville, somewhere, right? And say, you guys, you have to make sure this really is transparent, and we're going to look in on you and make sure that this is not being somehow subverted. And we put the good housekeeping stamp of approval on it, that it's really working, it's doing what it's intended to do, and nobody is putting it in the back shelf.
I have to disagree with you a little bit on that, because I don't think that necessarily somebody has to come from outside. There are a lot of fantastic people in city government who are working in city government because they are dedicated and they care. And there are a lot of people who are change agents in city government. What it does help us do, so for example, Forrest Frizzell, who is the deputy director of...
Who we had hoped would be with us here. Forrest, eat your heart out.
So, hi, Forrest. Forrest read about Code for America in a paper, and he decided to apply and get Code for America to come in. Forrest has been a fantastic city partner. So they're identifying people like Forrest, and there are others, definitely, that I have met at the city and county of Honolulu. People who are change agents who want to do better, but, the system has been in place for so long that it's really hard to break through, right? So when you have people like Forrest, what people like us can do is partner in partnership with them, show them that, adopt a siren. This is how you can quickly stand it up, or help them break out, sort of the procurement mess, because we have partners. We have a lot of partners, Code for America does, that can do things quickly and cheaply, right? And so we can use that network and that connections. And we have a huge network of cities, so we can connect them to other cities and change agents in other cities. So, for example, Philadelphia has been doing some fantastic work. And just yesterday at Honolulu, I launched, together with some of the city staff in Honolulu, change agents, all of them, a handbook on how best the city can use social media to communicate with citizens. And we reached out to Philadelphia and asked to look at their social media policy, and they immediately sent it to us. So we constantly have this sort of resharing of knowledge between cities and resharing of code between cities.
Code for America is doing that. So
yes.
You are acting as an intermediator between cities and sort of code arbitrage from one place to another.
Not even that. We were just the ones to introduce them in the first place. Now they're doing it on
their own.
It carries
on by itself.
Yes, because these people who are change agents in city government, really all it was needed was for us to come from outside city government to kind of show a different culture that's possible, a culture of a lean startup, which is what in Silicon Valley people do, which means that you don't have to wait for a finished, finalized, perfect product. It's really about the process of getting input from real users quickly, getting something out there, testing it with real users, and keeping improving it and testing it with users at the same constantly, which is what I did with Honolulu Answers, which we launched just last weekend.
It was a Q&A thing. Yeah, tell us about that.
Okay, so you asked why I was here earlier, and I was here this time, basically for a 3-week period, primarily to launch Honolulu Answers, as well as to launch the social media handbook. So Honolulu Answers...
That's online, of course.
Both of them are online. Yeah, okay. Honolulu Answers is answers.honolulu.gov. So
answers.honolulu.gov,
yeah. Which basically you can. So when we were here in February, let me take a step back and tell you why we did this project. When we were here in February, we met with a lot of people, both who work at City Hall as well as folks who work in the community, and we. Everybody said that one of the big pain points that they encountered was the fact that Honolulu.gov, which is the city's website, like all other government websites, has a wealth of information on the site, but that it's really hard for citizens who have a specific question in mind to actually navigate the website to find that specific piece of information they're looking for. This is true of all government websites, by the way. So, this actually was a pain point for the customer service department because they received a lot more phone calls from frustrated citizens who said, I can't find this information.
You have to help me.
Just help me. So they received a lot of phone calls, just fielding that kind of phone call, which obviously takes up a lot of time and results in frustrated citizens as well. And so what we looked at was gov.uk as a model. Gov.uk is the UK government's...
And it's good, isn't it?
It's good. I have to say, they've been working on it for 2 years. It's open source as well. And they spent 2 years sort of trying to figure out what makes for a good interface to city government. Because, sorry, in their case, to country government, to government, federal government, in their case. But to government, you as a citizen are looking for some answers, for some information, and you're looking for some services. What kind of mindset are you going in with? So they found that people come in with different mindsets. For example, people might have a quick question like, what is my trash pickup day? And if I go in looking for that, I just want my answer Tuesday and get out of there. I don't want to spend 20 minutes looking for it, right? But versus if people come in a sort of like a more researchy mindset, like, I'm moving to Hawaii, what do I need to know? That's a 20-minute research mindset where you're willing to kind of read through step by step, lots of chunks of information. And anyway, so based on all this research, and they did a lot of user testing as well, they came up with a website that is primarily search focused. So it puts search at the heart, because search is often where people start their internet journeys, right?
And they're used to Google.
And they're used to Google, exactly. In fact, most of the people we found when we did user testing later on with Honolulu Answers, most of the people we found that had visited honolulu.gov had gotten to honolulu.gov via a Google search. So the way they constructed gov.uk is that every page on the website is an answer to a specific search query. It's not a portal. It's like every page is, how do I renew my driver's license? What do I do about wild roosters in the case of Hawaii?
Right. Well, that really is different.
Exactly.
Because the traditional government website is just bureaucratic mumbo jumbo.
And it's organized by department, right? And people don't think in terms of department.
Yeah.
People don't, for example, here, one of the big pain points was that driver's licensing and motor vehicle registration falls under the customer service department. At the city. Who'da thunk?
Nobody.
Right? And that's just the way, or like the Liquor Commission falls under Budget and Fiscal Services. I mean, that's not how citizens know. And that's the way internally government is structured. But that's not how you need to present it to citizens, right?
Yeah.
You need to present it in a sort of a more logical way.
Service-oriented.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's how we built Honolulu Answers. And we did user testing via live user testing with Honolulu Answers to see if we were going in the right direction. Like I mentioned, a lean startup model, which means that we put something together. We put a little bit of content on the site, which I, worked with the customer service department and, put some content on there around how do I get a driver's license. And another fellow, her name is Liz Hunt. She wrote up some content on how do I get motor vehicle registered. And the language we used was very natural, simple, friendly language, just as if you're talking to your neighbor, not some formal government speak.
So you actually wrote the content.
Yes, we wrote the content, researched it from honolulu.gov and wrote the content. And it wasn't easy. I had to email the city staff a few times.
Tickle the bureaucracy out of it, squeeze it down.
Right. And I had to email them a few times to say, what does that mean? What is proof of legal presence? And what is, And then basically distilled it all down. How do I get a driver's license? Is now 5 bullet points that says, you need to take a written test. You need to go there with your proof of legal presence, which is XYZ. You need to do, here's where you need to go, Satellite City Hall, location XYZ. I mean, just 5 bullet points. This is all I need to know. Just give me my quick answer, and then I'm out of here. And that's what works for 80% of the people who are looking for that question. And then for the 20% that are looking for more detailed information or have an edge case like, I'm a military veteran from out of state, and my car was registered internationally, and some kind of edge case.
Much more complex.
Yeah, for that we have a different type of content because those people typically have a little bit more time, and that is what we call a guide on the website, which takes also written in very simple, plain, easy language, but takes you step by step through. Here, step 1, page 1. Then here's step 2.
Is it free text? I mean, how does the search work when you have a complex question like that?
It works, and you can put in. The search is actually something we're very proud of. On my team, there's a fantastic developer who's actually an intern. He was an intern this summer, based in the UK, and he investigated all of this. And in 2 months, he got search working to a beautiful state where you can type in a natural language and say, how do I get a driver's license if I am a military veteran, and blah, blah. I mean, just put in a question like you're talking to your neighbor, and you will get the right search results.
Yeah. So is this ahead of other? It's probably not ahead of UK, but is it ahead of other cities?
Yes, nobody has done it.
This is a model you would use for some other city now.
Yes. I'm really glad you asked that question. It hasn't been done in the U.S. before. So Honolulu is now leading.
That's great.
I mean, it's an experiment, right? Because it's never been done in the U.S.
Great.
before.
Nice to be part of an experiment, really.
Yeah, and so we are hoping that because it's all open source, that other cities can use it. Obviously, the content they can shape to their own city, but they can take it and use it. And we'd love for it to become a useful resource. So what we did was do a write-a-thon, which was a very special event. Yeah.
Okay, I'm learning new words here today.
Yeah, this is actually, I'm sure, a new word for everyone because we did the first ever civic write-a-thon in the history of the United States. Unless somebody out there has done another civic write-a-thon that I don't know about, please let me know. But what's a civic write-a-thon, you might ask?
Yes, I would ask that. Yeah.
A civic write-a-thon is basically what we did was we got people from the community as well as people who work for the city on a Saturday, early morning on a Saturday, come together to write answers to quick questions. We wrote up, we looked through analytics on honolulu.gov to see what kinds of questions people are searching for. Right? And
of course, you can do that. You keep a record of the questions.
Yes.
So now you know what is in the average person's mind.
Exactly.
You take that question and you can actually build hypothetical answers to the question.
Exactly. And so we wrote up all those questions, as well as questions that we asked the customer service department what it is that they receive phone calls for, the top, and we asked a lot of other departments too, like the Department of Community Services, which handles homelessness or elderly affairs or things like that. We asked, all these departments, what are the top phone calls you receive from citizens? And we wrote up all of those questions, and we pasted them up on a wall.
Wish I'd been there. Wish I would have had the chance to watch you do this.
Yes. It was great because this too was an experiment. A civic write-a-thon has never been done before. And we posted up the questions, and first of all, I was just completely overwhelmed with joy to see how many people turned up. We had about 55 people, more than 55 people, who came on a Saturday morning at 9 a.m. on a day when there were dragon boat races and all these other things going on, 14 of which were city employees who came. They were not reimbursed for their time. They came just out. So you're talking about people who care, change agents.
I guess so. For the common good, yeah.
There are definitely tons of people, and there were a lot more who wanted to come but weren't able because they were signed up as a team for the dragon boat races or other things. And they came to participate. All of these people got together, researched, pulled questions off the list, researched the answer on honolulu.gov, as well as by going up to the city staff and asking the city staff who knew the answers, collaborated together. And so this was just such a wonderful experience of seeing community and city collaboration. And genuine sort of, there were people, there was somebody, a police officer was there in full uniform and engaging with citizens and telling them, okay, trying to research the answer to, I remember seeing this, the answer to how do I report graffiti, and the police officer was trying to research it together with this person, the citizen.
Great.
And
So it's question oriented.
exactly, it's all question oriented. The whole site is built as though every page is an answer to a question.
Yeah.
And we had the actual writing time was about 2.5 hours of actual writing time. We also had speakers. We did a press launch at the event, so the mayor came in and MSNBC flew in from New York to cover the event because it was the first ever civic write-a-thon, and it was Honolulu Answers, the first ever sort of citizen-focused government website that has been created in the United States. So they wanted to cover it nationally. Yeah. And so in 2.5 hours of writing time, people wrote 120 articles, 120 questions people wrote answers to and submitted them electronically. And I'm still going through the process of curating all of them, making sure that they are indeed accurate, and things like that. But we have a bunch of them up on the site and more going up every day with the author attribution and picture, So you can actually...
It's like a Wikipedia kind of thing where, you can keep on putting in...
It's Wikipedia, but it's also curated to make sure that it's vetted, to make sure that it is actually...
As opposed to Wikipedia.
Right, that it is actually accurate. And, we thought, what better way to populate this resource that's citizen-focused than to get citizens involved, to get the community involved and the city staff involved and have them collaborate. And, so that was the event that I was here for, Honolulu Answers.
It just happened.
It just happened. It happened on Saturday, July 28th, so 10 days ago. Yeah. There's a blog post that was written about it that was published on Huffington Post. Written actually by Bert Lum. So you can go check it out. You can do a search on Huffington Post for Honolulu Answers or Write-a-thon. And we're hoping that the Write-a-thon itself... I'm sorry?
Did you get in the paper?
In the local paper, there was a press release, but I don't think... Oh, there was somebody from KHON too.
Next time, let me know. Send me your press release.
You were on the...
I was? Oh,
yeah,
okay. Well,
you were on the newsletter. You were on the newsletter that we sent out.
Yeah.
We have a newsletter. So if you want to be on the newsletter, if you're interested in keeping up to date with the work that we're doing in Honolulu, just send an email to honolulu@codeforamerica.org.
Honolulu@codeforamerica.org.
That's right.
I hope you're making notes. So this really is very exciting because it's laboratory, it's pioneer, it's edge of the envelope.
It's all an experiment too, but the key is that we get citizen input into it. So
you have to keep on doing that.
Yes.
It doesn't stop here.
No, absolutely not. So one thing that I alluded to earlier, which I would just like to explain a little bit more, is that when we had our first minimally functioning sort of prototype of Honolulu Answers, as soon as we got some content in there, we tested it with real users. And the way we did that was people who were on honolulu.gov, who were actually live visiting honolulu.gov, looking for driver's license information or motor vehicle information or whatever, we intercepted them with a little pop-over, a little pop-out that said... do you have 25 minutes to participate in a user test? And a lot of people said yes. So I then called them, set up a time. And then on that time, we did a live video share where I could see their screen. They shared their screen with me. And these are people who are actually real people going on honolulu.gov looking for information, because those are the people I wanted to ask. And so I asked them to find whatever information it was that they were looking for on honolulu.gov, sort of kind of saw how difficult it was for them, asked them to tell me how the experience was for them, what their challenges were, etc., in real time. And then I asked them to find the same information on Honolulu Answers. And
completely different approach, a different portal.
Different approach, and a completely different way of doing things. Not even a portal, right? Every page is a destination
it's
in
all
and of itself.
pre-organized.
Right, yeah. And we found that, by and large, the Honolulu Answers was this mental model worked for people, that they were able to navigate and find the information that they were looking for a lot easier. And we also got some other useful pieces of feedback that, make it look a little bit more official or things like that. Showed great suggestions. So we did. We redesigned it, made it look more official, and now we've launched it.
Okay, launched. Now, what happens after the launch? It's the old question of building the library, but where are the books, What's the system in place that's going to make sure this stays current and responsive?
Yes. So a launch in Code for America terms doesn't actually mean that the same as it does in big companies, right? Where I used to work for Yahoo, and when we did a launch, it had to be finished and and out there. That's not how it works at Code for America. We work in the lean startup model, and so a launch means we've announced it to the world. It's in a functioning enough shape that we've announced it to the world, but we're going to keep making improvements and iterations and developing
get feedback
it
from people
and getting feedback.
So it's
user
an iterative
feedback
process
constantly. And just today, actually, I had a meeting with the city staff who are going to be taking it over.
That's what I was going to ask you.
Exactly. So it was very important to us, as well as to Forest, who's our city partner, that everything we create be sustainable, right? It's not like Code for America does it and now, goodbye.
Terrible result, yeah.
And so Forrest, early on, a few months ago, identified some people in the city staff whom actually he'd been sort of training in
Ruby
on Rails.
Up all along.
Exactly. In Ruby on Rails, he was handling that part where some city staff from the Department of IT were learning Ruby on Rails, which is sort of a language that is being used for a lot of open source. Exactly. For a lot of open source work. And so Forrest was already thinking ahead. Like I'm telling you, there are people who really are change agents, and
He's
you
very
just need
simpatico with what you're doing.
Sorry, say that?
He's very simpatico with what you're doing.
Oh, absolutely. Muy simpático. And so he, so today we had a meeting where, and this is sort of one in a series of meetings that we've been having with the developers who are out there, because everything we do is in the cloud. It's kind of, you can do it remotely. In fact, one of my team's developers is in the UK, as I mentioned.
Yeah.
Our fantastic Google Summer of Code intern. And we have a couple of interns, but one of them is in San Francisco, one is in the UK, another fellow is in... And so it's not a problem, to do things remotely. They all work very closely. And so today we had a meeting with all the developers, those at Code for America, the interns in the UK, and the developers here. And my team is writing up documentation that makes it super clear and simple as to how they can, take it on and reuse it, and as to how any city can take it on and reuse it. It's going to be written very simple basics, not assuming any prior
It's a great gift.
knowledge.
It's a great gift you've given. But it's a gift to more than Honolulu, because it's a gift to, wherever Code for America reaches.
I hope that it becomes a useful resource for other cities as well.
I'm going to go home and try it. Now,
Try it out,
answers.honolulu.gov.
answers.honolulu.gov.
Answers.honolulu.gov, okay. So what happens to you now? I mean, you're going back. You can't stay here forever. Well, you could stay here forever. But
who wouldn't love to, right?
So this is like the end of summer camp somehow, isn't it? And you've achieved some really remarkable things. You've touched some people. You've touched the city, I think. What happens to you now?
To me personally, for me, Code for America was I was very, very fortunate to find a home at Code for America this year, because our missions aligned, and it's a very unique place. It's truly sort of, the first day at Code for America, on a big whiteboard, the staff had written the words, "This is your fellowship," with your underlined, and it is so true, and this is how it's been. We don't have a boss, right? Everybody is...
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And everybody is completely empowered to make the change they want to make, to do things, to get stuff done, and there's nobody to tell us what to do or what not to do. They're there for support whenever we want advice or need support. there's a huge network there. And since everybody has taken essentially a year out of their lives, because it's a not-profit, it doesn't pay very much at all. So whoever's doing it is doing it because they passionately care and they want to make a difference. Because of that, we're all just so sort of motivated to be change agents that we're constantly coming up with new ideas, building on each other's ideas, sharing our skills with everybody else, as well as with the larger Code for America community and other cities. I mean, this is work heaven. When they talk about a job that doesn't feel like work, for me, this is it. And so, yes, I'm absolutely devastated to think of, what will happen come December. But it's been so great for me to know what kind of environment makes me fire on all cylinders and makes me super motivated, as I'm sure is the case for the vast majority of all the fellows.
So how are you going to recreate that?
That's the challenge. I don't know if I will go start a Code for Pakistan next, which is where I'm from originally, or if I will.
That's an interesting idea.
Yeah, I mean, maybe spread it to other countries where the same model won't exactly work, right? I mean, in Pakistan, for instance, you cannot rely on the government for anything. It's, in fact, the government, you don't want to work with the government because it's very quickly it's very corrupt. And so what it is, though, is very rich in community because people have taken the citizenship, exactly. They have taken the notion of citizenship 2.0 and really embraced it because they know they can't rely on the government for anything.
You spoke about this in your Ignite speech that I saw.
Yes, that's right. And so that angle is a lot stronger, but the government angle is completely out of the picture. Yeah. So how can, maybe I could start a different model where, it's all community driven and having a network of people, developers, technologists, and all that. I don't know, that could be an idea. But I mean, I've lived in the United States for 14 years now. I'm a U.S. citizen. And so, it's challenging. I am a bit removed from that a little bit. I go back every year or every couple of years.
But I'm curious, interested to see that you're not going back to Yahoo.
No.
You're not going to go back from whence you came. You're going to go to a next step.
Absolutely.
And I think inherent in that, if I could just offer a reaction,
please do,
is that you have found that what you are doing not only improves city government, not only improves the community around, local government or local communities, but it changes society.
Yes.
We are in a transitional time, and you are in that transition. That's what I think, Sheba.
Yes, absolutely. I think Code for America has done so much for me and for the other fellows.
Thank you, Sheba. That was great.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to share some of what we've been doing.
We have to do this again, in or out of the fellowship.
Absolutely. Would love to. Thank you, Jay.
Thank you.